Hi and welcome to the Carp YouTube channel again. Every carp angler should have a change bait, something they can go to besides the boilie that they can use to nick a bite. And today I'm going to show you one of my favourite change baits, Peperami for carp fishing. So, Peperami. I get mine from the supermarket, off the supermarket shelves, and there's always a couple of sticks of this in the fridge at home because it's such a good bait, and I always bring a couple with me. It doesn't matter what time of year it is, summer, winter, there's always a couple of these in my box just in case, and quite often I switch to them. The only thing I can say about buying it is wait until it's on sale. You know, these bunch of fives are $2.75 for 5, but occasionally do get put in the whoopsie aisle, and that's when I tend to pick them up. I go do some shopping on Saturday morning, and if they're on offer, then I grab a bag of 5. Okay, so supermarket's a place to get them, and try and get them when they're on special offer. Okay, so the conventional way to use Peperami is to mix it with pellets and a stick mix, which works really well, but it's not the way I use mine at this time of year because it's winter. So I'm just snipping the end off. Anything you snip off, by the way, keep, because you can always stick it in your PVA bag or stuff like that, or turn it into freebies. It doesn't matter how much of a sliver you take off, keep them for the PVA bag because it'll mix in with the pellets. I'm not going to use pellets today. The other way I like to use mine is individually, or just with a handful of freebies, 4 or 5 little snipped pieces. So I'm snipping this Peperami at the moment onto my lid, and I'm just going to snip 4 or 5 pieces, put one on a hair, and then drop it in with the rest dotted around it. A bit like boilie fishing, but you know, with 5 or 10 baits, only you're using less because you know, you stick a pint of Peperami's not very long. So that's how I like to fish mine in winter. Tastes delicious as well. So I've got a couple of pieces here. There you go. And that's my bait for 1 rod. And I bring a couple of sticks with me. I get a hook base out of it, and I get a few freebies. I'm only fishing 4 or 5 hours, so I don't need loads of sticks or anything like that. I just need enough to get through the day. And it works well as a single hook base as well, and that's another way I prefer to use it in winter, as a single. No stick mix, no pellets, no bags, no nothing, just on its own, because it's actually really attractive bait. It's full of oil. I'll give it a squeeze. I don't know whether you can see that, but my hands are all wet. Oil is just absolutely pouring out of it. It's a very oily bait, and the way I like to fish it is to hair rig a piece. So I'm just going to go straight through with my boilie needle, like so. I'm going to take my rig, slide it onto the hair, like so, and that's a piece of Peperami rigged and ready to go. Okay, so once I've got my piece of Peperami on, I like to trim it down. So I'm going to take a piece off the top, being careful not to cut the braid, like so. And those little bits can be kept, and then I'll trim the sides as well. So it's just basically taking the skin off to let more of the oil out. What I'm left with is a trimmed down piece of Peperami like that, and that's going to be cast out as it is. Some guys like to put a topper on top there. They put a yellow sighter or a red piece of foam, just a tiny piece of foam. What I would say is be wary of doing that on how big your foam is. Yeah, make sure your foam is only small. You only need a really small piece. You don't want it floating up. And the reason I'm saying caution over this is because Peperami is loaded with oil, and oil is heavier than water. So if you critically balance so it just about sinks like that, as the oil leaks out, it gets replaced by water, it becomes lighter. So as you fish this, as your session goes on, that bait is getting lighter and easier to suck up all the time, because water is replacing the oil as the oil leaks out. And if you've critically balanced it, once the oil comes out and the water goes in, your bait will start to lift off the bottom and you'll end up fishing with a piece of Peperami straight off the lead. I've done it, so I know. So it's one thing to be careful of. Because it's full of oil, don't fish it critically balanced. You put a sighter on it, but just make sure it sinks quite quickly and it's not really dead slow, because there's a tipping point there where eventually it will start to rise up because the oil will come out of it. Okay, so I like to leave mine as is, no sighter on it, nothing, just a little piece of Peperami like that. And I'm going to put a couple of the other pieces in a PVA bag and just underarm it out and put a couple of extra pieces in, and then just sit back and wait. And if your location is right, which we all know it needs to be, then hopefully I won't wait long for a bite, but we'll see. Okay, so there's my little piece of Peperami on the hook. I've put a little piece of foam to trap the hair and make sure the hair doesn't get knotted, and I just nicked on a little PVA bag with a couple of shavings in that we took off before, that little end piece and another one that's just been chopped up. So just a couple of little bits of Peperami, and I'm gonna drop that in and hopefully it'll nick us a bite. And Peperami in winter is actually really good for nicking bites, which is why I'm using it. Okay, so that first rod you've seen is in, and I've done my second one. I'm going to fish this one as a single, but it's exactly the same, just trimmed down. One thing I would say is the skin at the bottom where the hair goes in, leave it on. There. Trim the sides, trim the top, but leave the bottom, because the skin's quite hard. And what you find is if you get a fish, sometimes your hair will slice through your boilie, and it can slice through the Peperami the same. But with the skin on, there's less chance of that happening. So you can just keep using the same hook bait over and over again throughout the day. Because they're so small, those little wraps of Peperami, you've got to try and make use of it as much as you can. Like, you don't want to be going through loads of them because they're actually quite expensive. But yeah, leave the skin on the bottom so that the hair won't tear through it. Stick a little bit of foam over this. Like so. And I'm going to drop that in as a single without a bag. And I'm fishing both in the same area, and hopefully the fish will like one or the other. Let's see if I can get a bite on it. All it remains for me to do now, switch the box on, and now it's just a case of being patient. Let's see what the Peperami brings. Well, there's one for the Peperami. Let's get him out and see what we've got. Chalk one for the Peperami. There we go. He's not massive, just a low double. £10, 6 ounces. But it just goes to show you, even single piece Peperami or a couple of pieces in a little PVA bag are all you need in winter. And this one came to the bag. Let's get him back. Oop. Well, there we go, there's another one on the Peperami. That's my second one today. I've fished one till about 5:30, so I've got another half hour before I pack up, but I'm 2 fish to the good, just fishing with Peperami. Small bag and a single hook bait, and I've had 1 off each. So I've had a fish off the bag, fish off the single, and it really works, especially in winter. And we are still in winter now. It does feel like a nice spring day, but we are still officially in winter. And I've been catching on Peperami. Let's take a look at the fish I've got. And there we go, 13£6. And this one has fallen to a single piece of Peperami. So the low double on the bag, and this one's just fallen to a single piece. No topped baits, no PVA bags of pellets or anything like that, just straight Peperami. And I've used about 2/3 of a stick. So Peperami, it's a great cheap bait for winter. Right, I'm going to get this fella back. If you're looking for more boilie alternatives, there's a couple of videos here. In this corner, chickpeas, and here is maple peas, and both are good alternative hook baits to boilies that will catch you fish at scratching time. So that's it for now. Take care, and I'll see you again soon.